What's going on, fellas? It's your boy Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your guy on Twitter at MMALOTN. This week we're going over UFC Vegas 21, headlined by Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. If you guys remember, Belal Muhammad is stepping in on short notice. He just competed exactly a month ago, and in he steps for Khamzat Chimaev, who's just having horrible complications due to COVID-19, and this long-awaited bout between Leon Edwards and Khamzat continues to get pushed back to the disarray of MMA fans all over the world. Luckily, we still get to see Leon Edwards go in there and compete for the first time since July of 2019 when he took a decision victory over Rafael dos Anjos in a main event down there in San Antonio, Texas. Super excited for the card this weekend. There's 13 fights. We had a couple drop off, a couple replacements hop in as well. One salary or one matchup that we're still waiting for salaries on, but we can still get through this show, and I'm very much looking forward to breaking it down for you guys. Just a reminder, you guys can follow me at MMALOTN on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as well. And if you guys go on the YouTube, you guys can find my full podcast that I drop for every single UFC card. This is more so focused on the DraftKings side of things, whereas my channel is more so on the betting side of things. So if you guys want the full in-depth breakdown of the entire card, you guys can check out my channel, MMA LOTN. Also, I do want to plug my Patreon as well. Again, more betting specific compared to DFS specific for Sal Vetri. You guys get all my picks, early access to my prediction videos, a solid Discord channel where we have a great community of people sharing picks in all other sports as well too. Best bets and props article, which I'm also giving you guys live betting tips. So going into a fight, you want to be prepared to potentially live bet it, and you want to know what to be looking for on both sides, and I provide that with you guys as well. We have over 220 members in the Patreon, so it's a very lively community, and it's growing on a month-to-month basis, and I'm super excited to have more guys jump on every single time there's a UFC event. And again, it's only $5 a month. Super cheap. You get a ton of value, a ton of bang for your buck, and there's a ton to dissect in there. And yeah, it truly helps out your boy for sure. Also, we do want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Super Draft. If you guys use the promo code SAL, they'll match your initial deposit up to $500 in a slow drip format. So the difference with Super Draft and guys like DraftKings and FanDuel is that they're more multiplier based. So it's not salary based. You can pick all the favorites if you want, but you'll get a less multiplier on that as well too. The bigger an underdog, the more of a multiplier you get, so the more points you'll get depending on how many points they actually end up scoring, and then you put that into the multiplier. But yeah, I love this format. You're not restricted by salaries. You can pick whichever fighters you want, and again, it's multiplier format, not salary format. So once again, that's promo code SAL when you guys sign up on Super Draft, and they'll match your initial deposit up to $500 in a slow drip format. So make sure you guys check out Super Draft. Shout out Super Draft. All right. As you guys know, I just hone in on my Lock of the Night, Dog of the Night, Fate of the Night, and Sleeper of the Night on this episode on Sal Vetri's channel. And if you guys want the in-depth breakdown on all 13 fights for this card, go check out my podcast. All the links are in the description below as well too. So make sure you guys check that out. All right. Let's not get you guys, fading any or waiting any longer. Let's get into the Lock of the Night play. We got my guy Leon Edwards at at 9,000 points. $9,000. He's going to be my Lock of the Night play for this card. Now we got 5 rounds to work with. Last time we saw him go 5 rounds, he put up 99 points. I'm expecting somewhat similar, if not better, points here against Belal Muhammad, who I believe is just not on the same level as Leon Edwards. Leon, again, he's coming off an extended layoff here since the last time we saw him in July of 2019, but this guy has been primed and ready to go for several events now. He was actually supposed to fight on the last event before the whole coronavirus thing went down, and unfortunately for him, that fight gets scrapped, obviously due to COVID, and he's supposed to go up against Tyron Woodley. We're talking about a guy, if he got a victory over Tyron Woodley last year, he would be talking about, getting himself into a title shot right now, fighting for the title, rematching Kamaru Usman from a fight that happened way earlier in their careers. So, this guy's definitely on another level. Has been fighting the top of the top in the division as well and making a very good account of himself. So, not only was he scheduled to fight Tyron Woodley in March of last year, but he's been scheduled to fight Khamzat Chimaev 3 different times since I believe December of this past year. Unfortunately, the first time he caught COVID, and then the second 2 times was Khamzat Chimaev, who was just dealing with crazy, unfortunate complications due to the COVID-19. And so Leon Edwards has been on the sideline for a little bit longer than he should have been. But luckily for him, Bilal Muhammad is stepping in on short notice here, so he can finally get active, finally get inside the cage. Leon Edwards, great striking, solid takedowns as well too, and now that's something that a lot of people overlook. They just want to label him as a striker, but he does a really good job of getting fights to the ground and having a bunch of control time. One of the better wrestlers that come out of the British scene. British fighters are not really known for being good wrestlers, albeit guys like Mike Grundy. But Leon Edwards shows a great MMA game, a great understanding, and a great fight IQ in terms of when to drag the fights to the ground, and even has a couple of submission victories on his record too. So the guy definitely has a ton of tricks up his sleeve and different ways to win fights. A very efficient fighter. His striking output may not seem like the most, but he does a good job of lulling his opponents into the same type of fight that he fights, but he's always just that much better. Great fight IQ in terms of when to take fights down. Solid southpaw stance where he shows his great striking ability. He has a nasty kick down the middle as well too that really pushes his opponents back and forces them to kind of second guess when they should be entering and what kind of combinations they should be coming in with. Bilal Muhammad, on the other hand, he's forever been like a top 10 to top 15 guy, middle of the pack kind of guy. When the lights are brightest, it seems like he falls a little bit short, or at least when his level of competition is up there, he seems to fall a bit short. Guys like Jeff Neal and Vicente Luque, when he's going up against them, he ends up losing those fights. But he's able to beat the Curtis Millenders, the Takashi Satos, the Lyman Goods, and the Diego Limas. But this is another level with Leon Edwards. We're talking about a guy that was just on the cusp of fighting for a title, a number one contender fight. Bilal Muhammad is more so just doing a favor for the UFC for jumping into this fight. And he has a solid style, right? Stay in your face just like he showed in the Diego Lima fight. Stay in your face, throw a couple shots out there, try to mix in a couple takedowns. But I feel like once he feels the striking style of Leon Edwards and the fact that he's not going to be able to get Leon down so easily or keep him down, I think he's going to run into some trouble. It feels like when he doesn't respect his opponent as much, he's able to just let it go and be loose, kind of like he was in the Diego Lima fight. The only real resistance he found in that fight was the calf kicks of Diego. And Diego, it seemed like he gassed halfway through that second round, and he didn't really do a good job of, following up his calf kicks with any of his boxing or any of his strikes from his hands. And I think that's what truly was his downfall, and which allowed Bilal Muhammad to continue to push the pace, continue to push him up against the cage, and pretty much win that fight from pillar to post from minute 1 to minute 15. Now, Bilal Muhammad was complaining a couple of days later after that fight that, his legs were beat up. He got chewed up. It was hard for him to walk. How do I fight a guy that calf kicks me? And now we're talking about, 3 or 4 weeks later, he's jumping right back into the cage against the top of the top in the division. So I think he might show a little bit of, wear and tear from that fight still. And this is not a fight that you want to be jumping in on short notice for. He has gone 5 rounds in his tight end FC days before coming to the UFC, but it's been a long time since then. And again, a shortened camp, not to mention some of the damage that he took in that Diego Lima fight. It's just a recipe for disaster for Bilal. It's a win-win for him, right? First ever main event, fighting a highly ranked guy in Leon Edwards. If he goes out there and goes 5 rounds and maybe wins a round or 2 over Leon, he's going to be, his stock will rise, even if he loses this fight. But I think this is Leon Edwards' fight from minute 1 to minute 25. He might drop 1 round here or there, but I don't think that he drops more than 3 rounds. And I think we see Leon Edwards pretty much, land takedowns, have some good top control, mixing his boxing in here and there. And I expect him to score in the hundreds, especially, with this being 5 rounds. And given the fact that I believe he'll be able to take Bilal Muhammad down pretty much whenever he wants earlier in this fight, and that's to rack up some good control time, some good significant strikes, or even some clinch work up against the cage. There's some control time there as well too. So I like Leon Edwards here. Definitely my lock of the night play for this coming weekend. All right, dog of the night play. This one was a little bit harder because I really like Matthias Nicolau as a dog from a betting perspective, but from a DFS perspective, I'm really liking Jason Witt in that 7,800 range. He's going up against Matthew Semmelsberger. This will be the second fight for Semmelsberger in the UFC and the second full camp fight for Jason Witt in the UFC. If you guys remember, he made his UFC debut on short notice against Takashi Sato and got starched within a minute. Unfortunate loss for him there, but he bounces back with a strong showing against Cole Williams, where he racked up 105.4 points, taking the fight down pretty much at will, and being able to control that fight, and then eventually getting that submission in the second round. He is a submission hunter. 8 of his 18 wins have come via submission, and he's a very strong wrestler as well. He might be outsized here in terms of a 3-inch height disadvantage as well as a 5-inch reach disadvantage, but I believe that his wrestling prowess will allow him to, nullify that size advantage of Matthew Semmelsberger, get this fight to the ground pretty much over and over again, and either ride out top control, or I think he's live for a submission victory here too. He has a ton of experience compared to Semmelsberger. Talking about this is his 25th fight, a pro MMA fight, compared to Semmelsberger, who's only going to be stepping in there for the 10th time. I think there's a little bit of recency bias here on Semmelsberger, given how good he looked against Carlton Minus. That was a fight where it was at pick'em odds, but Carlton Minus, from what we've seen thus far, is just not that great of a fighter. Not even a UFC level kind of guy. So Semmelsberger did a really good job of keeping that fight on the feet and landing big shots, more shots, and landing more volume than Carlton. And he looked amazing in that fight. But I think that it kind of reminds me of the Donny Chavez and Jared Gordon fight from a couple weeks ago, where like a guy has a great UFC debut, but it's more so how bad his opponent was compared to how good he actually is. And of course, if you're good, you're just supposed to go out there and do exactly that to the guys that are much below your level. But then when you start coming up against guys like Jason Witt or Jared Gordon, you got to realize that, okay, this is another level. This is somebody where, fighting the way I fought Carlton Minus is just not going to cut it. I've seen the takedown defense deficiencies on Matthew Semmelsberger in his regional scene, and not too long ago either. So I feel like he's going to struggle here against the strength of Jason Witt, and not to mention the wrestling advantage that Jason will have as well. So I like Jason to get this fight down continuously. I think he'll rack up more points than Nicolau, unless Nicolau gets an early finish in his fight against Manel Kape. But I like Jason Witt to, control time, strikes, possible submission as well. At 7,800, I think he's going to score maybe in the 80s, 90s, maybe even 100, especially if he's able to get that finish too. So I think he will definitely be my dog of the night here. From a betting perspective, again, I like Nicolau, but from a DraftKings perspective, I think Jason Witt is my favorite dog. Obviously, Semmelsberger can go out there and absolutely starch him. Jason Witt has been knocked out, like I said, 2 fights ago against Takashi Sato. But I think that, Semmelsberger's power might be nullified by, continuously moving back and dealing with the small cage that Jason will thrive in with his wrestling and grappling attack. So I like Jason here. I think he gets takedowns. I think he gets a possible submission too. And he's definitely my dog of the night play here. Before I jump on to the fate of the night, make sure you guys check out Salvetti's Patreon, where he has a bunch of tools to help you guys be super successful in your DraftKings, approach, your FanDuel approach. The guy has great tools on there, great projections, and not to mention his MMA optimizer has been killing it as of late. So make sure you guys take full advantage of that. That's on Salvetti's channel. Again, the link is in the description below if you guys are interested in checking that out. All right, fate of the night. This was the same fate of the night for a couple of weeks ago, and the fight, did not end up happening that night. Now it's happening this weekend. We got Ashley Yoder against Angela Hill. My fate of the night is going to be Angela Hill. Now, 90, what she's at, 9,400 in my opinion is just way too big of a price here for Angela Hill. She should be a heavy favorite. It makes absolute sense from a betting perspective. But from a DraftKings perspective, I think she's going to have a lot of trouble getting Ashley Yoder out of there. So if she wins this fight, it's probably going to come via decision, and it's probably going to come strictly from a striking perspective. I don't see her getting takedowns against Yoder or even seeking takedowns, nor do I think she's going to go up there and try to cage control Ashley Yoder. The best work that Angela Hill does when she's in the cage is from distance, striking from distance, and just staying on the outside and picking apart her opponent from the outside, like I said. So when she's beating girls via decision, it's like the Loma Lukbunmi fight, where she's only racking up about 64 points. She finished Ariane Carnelosi and Hannah Cyphers and was able to get the 80 and 110 points. But Yoder is quite durable, in my opinion, and I think it's going to be very difficult for Hill to get her out of there. So at 9,400, I don't think she's going to live up to that price tag at all. So she's definitely going to be my fate of the night here. And, I think you have much better options in this $9,000 range compared to Hill, who's definitely not going to be scoring up to that, or up to snuff, I should say. Ashley Yuri, on the other hand, I think she's quite live here. She could push Angela Hill up against the cage, rack up some control time, and if she's successful in getting the fight to the ground, something that she's been successful in their first fight and successful since, she could make this a very tough fight for Angela Hill, who a lot of people think is just going to step in there and win this fight really easily. I'm of the other belief. I think the line should be slightly closer, maybe, minus 280, minus 300, max minus 350 on Angela Hill. But Ashley Yura has all the chops out there to go and make it a much more difficult fight for Angela Hill. The first time they fought, Ashley Yura was a purple belt. Now she's a black belt. By all accounts, all she's working on is just like cage control, clinch control, and trying to gain fights to the ground, and then just using her, superior black belt and her grappling skills against her opponents. And it worked perfectly in her fight against Miranda Granger, where she was able to rack up 90 points, but she looked really good in that fight. She did a good job of getting the fight to the ground and controlling that fight. And even in her fight against Lavinia Souza, she had a great third round where she was able to kind of pick her apart from the outside. But we know that's truly not Ashley Yoder's strong suit, and being able to just outstrike her opponents. And she's definitely not going to outstrike Angela Hill. Nor will Angela Hill have any cardio issues like Lavinia Souza had in that fight. So I do still like Hill here. I think she wins, but I just don't think she's going to score enough points to justify that 9,400 price tag. I'm expecting closer to that 60 max 70 point range here for Hill, and I just don't know if that's going to be enough on a card where I see multiple finishes, and I don't think that Angela Hill will end up being on the optimal lineup, given her price tag and given her fighting style. So I like Angela Hill here, but I do think she'll be my fate of the night at 9,400. Sleeper of the night, I got, this one was a tough one to come up with because there's not too many dogs outside of Jason Witt that I'm a big fan of. Ashley Yoder, I think she loses the fight. Davy Grant, not a big fan of him either in terms of beating Jonathan Martinez. And then it just gets tough. I think Eric Anders isn't the greatest. Bilal Muhammad, I think he's going to end up losing. So I truly think that the only ones that really came down to for me in terms of sleepers was Ashley Yoder, Davy Grant, and then this woman, Jinyu Fry. Now, she hasn't made the greatest account of herself in the UFC, going 0-2 to Kay Hansen and then Loma Lukbunmi last time around. But, she was the atomweight champion over there in Invicta FC. And I think that's the downfall for her, is the fact that she's been forced to come up to 115 pounds here, where she's just not that comfortable. Now, she is still strong. She does still show her strength in certain spots. And she did steal a round from Kay Hansen there. And Gloria De Paula is still quite young. She's 25 years old. She only has 7 fights. Jinyu Fry has 15 fights. She's 35 years old, so that's a little bit of a detriment there too. But the one fight that we did see Gloria really start to struggle is the Isabel de Padua fight, which was only 3 fights ago. We're talking about a fight where the smaller fighter was able to get in on range on Gloria, kind of walk through the striking of Gloria, clinch up against her, push her up against the cage, get the fight to the ground, and just control it from there. And that's what I feel like Jinyu Fry could be successful in doing. I think she's stronger than Gloria. I think she'll be able to drag her to the ground, and I think she'll be able to, kind of nullify the jiu-jitsu game of De Paula and kind of just grind her out. Now, I'm picking De Paula to win this fight, but I'm trying to reach for you guys here in terms of finding a sleeper play. And I truly feel like a lot of people are going to be sleeping on Jin, and I think she has probably one of the best shots out of the other names that I listed in terms of sleeper of the nights. I kind of almost fully expect Fry to be the lowest owned. I'd kind of be surprised if there's anybody lower owned. Maybe Ray Rodriguez would be lower owned, or even Ash Yoder would be lower owned. But I truly think a lot of people are going to be sleeping on Fry here, and I think she has a legitimate path to victory. And that's mainly just using her strength. We've seen her go 5 rounds before doing similar type of game plans, and I feel like it has held up over 5 rounds for her. So I expected her to hold up over 3 rounds here against DePaula. DePaula has a couple knockout victories on her record, but I feel like Fry has gone up against much harder strikers, and she's been able to go either 15 or 25 minutes with them. So I think she'll almost kind of disrespect the striking of DePaula, try to close the distance, clinch up again, smaller cage, so it's a little bit easier for her to kind of close that distance and push her up against the cage, possibly drag this fight to the ground, and that's a possible win condition for her here. It's just grinding this fight out, control time, significant strikes, clinch control. I think that's absolutely possible. She is a very strong woman, especially when you see these women line up. Like, the size advantage will obviously go to DePaula, but once you see how cut these women are, Jinyu Fry is just easily one of the strongest women at these lower weight classes. So I think she can make it a tougher fight for DePaula. Now, DePaula, the way she's successful is being able to keep this fight at distance. Her striking looks great. Her Muay Thai looks absolutely top notch. But I question the amount of power that's really coming behind that too. You also have to give the benefit of the doubt to DePaula here in terms of being able to improve on a fight-to-fight basis, given that she's 10 years younger here than Jinyu Fry. So maybe we might see a little bit more pop on the shots on DePaula. Maybe we'll see her get out of these clinch positions and kind of use, out technique the strength of Jinyu Fry in these situations. So again, this is a tougher card in terms of finding a sleeper, and I feel like the most slept on here will be Fry. So I'm going to try to make a little bit of a case for her. I'm not saying that you should go out there and, have Fry on over 50% of your lineups if you're a mass lineup kind of guy. But I'm trying to make the case for her to help you guys think, okay, maybe she is worth putting on a couple lineups here in case she goes out there and pulls off an upset. And I fully expect Apollo to be, one of the more higher owned people on the slate. And if you got some Fry and she pulls off the upset here, I think you're going to be sitting pretty, especially with the way that she could potentially win, which is just control, significant strikes, and obviously pulling off a potential victory as well too. So I like Fry here. I'll take her to win by decision. From a DraftKings perspective, from actual betting and other perspective, prediction perspective, I think DePaula is rightfully the favorite. She should be able to keep her distance and keep this at range and get her strikes off. But the Isabella de Padua fight just sticks out to me like a sore thumb. So that's kind of why I'm going with Jinyu Fry here as my sleeper of the night play, because I do think a lot of people are going to be sleeping on her, and she should do a good job of living up to the 7,400, maybe even outscoring that price tag if she's able to get the win here. Again, just tread lightly. That's all I'm going to say. She's 35 years old. She looks like she's regressing a little bit, but I feel like out of, again, the names that I listed before going into this breakdown, she is the one that most people will be sleeping on, and she's the one with the higher level or path to victory compared to the other fighters. All right. Main event, stackable or not. I expected to go 15 or 25 minutes. I'm expecting good output from both people. Bilal Muhammad does have pretty much double the amount of strikes, double the amount of output of Leon Edwards here. But Leon Edwards does a really good job of kind of making his opponents fight to his level and making it a much more difficult fight for his opponents and getting their strikes off. But I still think that we'll see high scoring from both guys. Maybe even if Bilal ends up losing, still scoring in the 40 to 50 point range. So yeah, if you're a GPP guy, a head-to-head guy, I think that this main event is definitely stackable. Again, before I get into my favorite range and favorite fighters in each salary range, make sure you guys check out Sal Vetri's Patreon. Has a ton of great tools for you guys there. Ownership, and not to mention the new MMA optimizer he dropped recently. Check that stuff out. Link in the description below. All right, my favorite plays in each range. In the $6,000 range, I gotta go with Ashley Yoder, 6,800. Between her and her and Davy Grant, I definitely lean Yoder more there. I feel like she has the better opportunity of winning this fight, and definitely beating out whatever Davy Grant is able to put on the board there. $7,000 range. I'm going with my dog on the night play, which is Jason Witt, 7,800. I think he gets takedowns. And I think he's very live for a submission victory as well. $8,000 range, I like Misha Cirkunov at 8,300. I think he gets Ryan Spann down without much issue, and I think he's very live for a first-round submission. No matter what happens in that fight, I expect it to finish under 1.5 rounds. So even if it's Ryan Spann potentially catching Misha Cirkunov with a big strike here, I still think that Cirkunov has the technical advantages pretty much everywhere. The only issue is his durability. He's been knocked out in, I believe, 3 of his last 5 fights, but he's been looking great as of late. And if he's able to just go for the takedown pretty much right away, I think he will be successful in doing so. And he is just miles better than Ryan Spann once his fight touches the ground. And I think that Misha Cirkunov will lock up a submission victory or get a ground and pound finish of some sort in that first round. So he is my favorite spot in that 8,300 range because I believe he has the best shot to go out there and win in the first round. And then $9,000 range. Obviously, my lock of the night play here is Leon Edwards, 9,000. I think he has a really good shot of scoring in the, he has that 5-round capability. He has scored in that higher range before. I'm looking at the other spots too, like Charles Jourdain. I don't really think he'll score that much. Hani Yahya, I think he goes out there and pulls off a first-round submission victory too. So I think that, he could definitely be considered as one of the best guys at that $9,000 range. Jonathan Martinez, possible finish, but I feel like more of his victories will be coming by decision, and I think that here against David Grant, he'll just outstrike him from the outside. Again, possible finish, but I definitely favor Hani Yahya to get a finish more than I favor Jonathan Martinez. And then obviously Angela Hill, my favorite of the night at 9,400. I think her line is just a little bit too wide, and her salary is just a little bit too high, and I don't think she's going to be able to live up to that number. So I do like Leon Edwards here at that $9,000 range. Already broke down the fight for you guys a little bit earlier. But he's my lock of the night play as well too. All right. Shout out to Super Draft as always. Use promo code SAL. They will match your initial deposit 100% up to $500 in a slow drip format. So make sure you guys check that out. Shout out to Super Draft as always for supporting the show. You guys can find me at MMALOT on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you guys check my stuff out, as well as my Patreon, $5 a month. You guys get a ton of perks. Links are in the description below. All right. I appreciate you guys hanging with me as always. Good luck on your fights this weekend. Good luck on your lineups, on your bets and everything. And I'll see you guys next week for another big event, UFC Vegas 22, headlined by Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland. Can't wait to break that one down for you guys. Good luck. Subscribe and like the video as well. Make sure you guys do that on the way out. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Good luck on your bets and good luck on all your lineups as well.